Hello, Bricksters. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Allison Baker. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with Databricks, and I'm here to introduce you to our next speaker. A couple of speakers we've got. Before we do that, I want to take a moment and share a few things that we have ahead in the afternoon. So we've got a few more sessions coming up after this. So we're going to go from this quick introduction to building AI-powered applications. So we're going to hear from a few folks on that. Followed up from there, we'll look at building a roadmap for impact in just 30 minutes with Lexi. And then Jason is going to close us out today on how we can elevate our SQL productivity working within notebooks and within the SQL editor. And with that, I am super excited to present our next two gentlemen up here on stage. So we've got Andre, and he is a staff software engineer, and he's going to be presenting with a very special guest, Coy McNew, who's with Bridgestone. If you were with us this morning in our keynote sessions, you saw that was highlighted as we talked about our Databricks apps. And they're going to share how Databricks apps is super easy to deploy, serverless, makes it easy to scale to all of your customers and build applications so that you don't have those headaches of infrastructure and having to manage all that. So with that, I would like to introduce the gentlemen to the stage. Andre and Coy, take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. It's the second year that I presented IAS. I am actually the founder engineer of Databricks Apps. I built this thing. So if you have any complaints about the product, it's probably my fault. But a lot has happened since last year. And this time is all about AI. But where's the clicker? And we're going to talk about AI-powered apps and how AI actually changed a little bit how we develop applications. So this is not a one-on-one session for apps. I expect everyone to know a little bit about apps. Is it just who has not created an app yet in Databricks? Okay, that's actually a lot of people. That's interesting. So maybe I step back a little bit. Databricks, now you can host applications. We saw in the keynote, we saw a demo, how it is. But I'm going to walk through, and I think there's hands-on sessions, one-on-ones. It's this Data and AI Summit is pretty app-heavy from what was my only session last year. But in this session, I want to show what do I know, what I want to share with you from the person that's actually building the platform. And how AI is actually changing how we actually architecture and deploy applications. So let me start with a few numbers of how. This is just to say that you guys shouldn't trust me. So we talk about 20,000 apps created, but what's interesting is that there's actually more than 8,000 apps right now that are daily used in Databricks, which means that I have a lot of Kubernetes clusters that I need to maintain. And the other thing is that it's more than 1,500 daily active customers. So there's 1,500 customers, not workspaces, accounts, that are every day touching an application, which is pretty crazy. And that just shows that apps are really democratizing data. And the way to share and build your own experience with your end users is through apps. So how do I do this? But instead of you hearing me about how do I build apps, I don't build apps, I build a platform. I want to bring to the stage Coy, which is one of our first users of Databricks apps. We started long ago, and he built some really cool stuff on Bridgestone. So applause to you. Welcome, Coy.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Coy. I work on AI at Bridgestone. And like Andre said, right, we got started with Databricks apps quite a while ago, I guess exactly a year ago, when you first saw you present on it. And we've been through a bit of a journey on our app development, and I'll tell you a little bit about that now. I guess before we get into that, a little bit about Bridgestone. We have about 180 manufacturing and R&D plants across the globe. We're a pretty global company. You can see some of our footprint there on the map. I think what probably people don't realize is that we're involved fully end to end. So I mean, we're talking growing and sourcing raw materials to doing R&D on designs to producing tires to selling tires. Not just to automakers and retailers, but we also have I can't remember how many thousands of direct-to-consumer retail stores around the country and world as well. You've probably seen the Firestone Complete Auto Care stores. But we don't just make tires. That's what we're best known for. We also make, you've probably seen our golf balls. I think Tiger Woods plays a Bridgestone ball now, which is pretty cool. We do some other fun stuff. We make shocks. We make the big seismic isolation things for buildings, which is pretty cool. And then we do some other fun stuff like we're involved in the design of the tires for the lunar rover, for example. It's always a fun one to bring up. But yeah, if you want some more information, visit our website. There's open postings, all that kind of stuff. I'll take you through now just what our journey has looked like, going from not building any apps at all to building Databricks native apps, AI-powered apps, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to describe this from the perspective of our data science team. That's where I've spent most of my time at Bridgestone. And we started this journey maybe a year and a half ago, let's say. All the way on the left side of this figure, our data science team was making models. We were making good models. We knew they were good because we could see the metrics. And we knew they were doing a good job of predicting things. What we didn't have was good stakeholder engagement, right? So we were running our models. We had some predictions out there. We had some outputs out there. And we didn't see a lot of people actually engaging with those and using those numbers. So it's not really a data science problem, right? It's like an engagement problem. So our solution, or at least our potential solution, was let's just put some simple user applications up there to let the business stakeholders interact with those models, and maybe we could drive engagement a bit. So we started really simple. I mean, we just built some simple, thin, Streamlit type interfaces. Maybe we just display a figure of that model instead of just outputting a table of numbers, and we let the user make some very simple selections, right? Change some drop downs about length of time or other parameters and regenerate the output. And even with a really simple front end like that, we started seeing tons more engagement with our models, and it really seemed like it was doing what we wanted it to do. When we started, like I said, quite simple. We didn't really know what we were doing. We originally started by just simply going to AWS, spinning up an EC2 instance, saying this is the instance for this app, deploying it on there, sharing within network via URL, and move on, right? Move on to the next one. That worked fine when we had one app, but you can see if we had 10 apps, 20 apps, 30 apps, now we have all these instances. It gets really complicated. Who's managing all this compute? Who's checking to make sure things are up? Who's doing all this orchestration? And our next solution from there was actually a talented data scientist on our team. I saw him come in. Is Greg out here? Oh, there he is right there. Okay, yeah. I'll introduce you guys after the talk if you're curious. A talented data scientist on our team decided he's going to take it upon himself to orchestrate a EKS cluster for us, right? So now we have an EKS set up. We are, containerizing apps. We're putting them in some kind of container registry. He's shipping them out. He's managing nodes. He's managing all this. And so you might think, okay, well, there's the compute management challenge solved, but really he just exported it, right? And it quickly became his full-time job, right? We have 30 apps or whatever. This is how he's spending every day instead of doing data science. And then we reached the point where, okay, now we have some apps served. We have to get these out to business users. We have to have some kind of authentication workflow. So what we did is actually just, write our own sort of Python custom logic to go out to our organization SSO, get the user to sign in, get some success message back, and then open up the app for the user. It really made the code a lot more complicated than it needed to be. And so then, again, like I said, this is someone right there, his full-time job for a while. So this was we were at the state maybe a year ago. We come to this conference last year, and we see Andre and Justin present this thing called Databricks Apps. And from basically as soon as we saw what was going on, it seems too good to be true. This is the exact solution we need. So we quickly adopted it. As soon as we got back, we got on some private previews. We started building things, and it was pretty much right what it said on the tin. It immediately alleviated our two main challenges. We could serve an app, compute's managed by Databricks. Authentication just piggybacks right off of the SSO that's already set up for Databricks, so business users can come right in. And we can manage authentication that way. This person can access, this person can't. And it was great. So we started spinning them up. Like I said, it immediately alleviated our two biggest challenges, compute, authentication. And it just led to a much faster time iteration cycle on prototyping, right? So we were putting stuff out there, we were making some changes, seeing what stuck and what didn't. It really made that cycle super tight because, hey, spin up a new compute, try an app, it worked, great, keep it. It didn't work, doesn't really matter, just destroy that thing and move on, right? And as I mentioned, right, it decreased maintenance, so Greg could go back to being a real data scientist instead of a compute manager. And then from there, we just started building in complexity, right? We had some of these that stuck, some of them worked really well, and we got a lot of engagement on some. This is also about the same time that everyone within our organization was clamoring for Gen AI applications, so Gen AI built into whatever business app they were using. And so we started building on top of that. If you saw the keynote this morning, you saw Justin bring up one of our apps. That is a sort of a general use Gen AI application that's used throughout the company. We're talking, I think 700 or so users at the moment, 200 or so a day. And that started around this time, right? And started very simple. Now that Databricks has all these other integrations, we just kind of built those in one at a time as they made sense. So now we look at our Gen AI workflow like we have some new idea, we develop some sort of agentic backend in Python, we deploy it through the agentic framework, then serve it as an endpoint within Databricks. We connect that to some data source in Databricks, say we build a vector store. We serve LLMs through the model serving in Databricks, and then now we serve the front end in Databricks as well. So then that way it's entirely native. All those things are modular. We can work on all those independently, and our iteration and improvement cycle is even tighter and more efficient, right? So I think about, there's a lot of hands about people who haven't built apps. So if I'm sitting in the audience and I'm thinking about trying Databricks apps, what would my advice be to you? First and foremost, I would say, similar to what we did, start really simple. So just make some apps. Surely you have some kind of model already served with some stakeholders you want to connect it to. Surely you have, some kind of data set you could connect and do EDA or analytics, anything. Just build some. It's not that hard. And some are going to stick, some aren't. Get some feedback from your stakeholders about what they like and what they don't. And then the second point is what I just brought up, which is iterate quickly. So the framework they've set up makes it super easy to try stuff. Some works, some doesn't. Keep the ones that are successes. The ones that are failures, discard them and move on. It's really great in that way. And then finally, similar to how we built in complexities, intro, and workflow, as it makes sense, add on all these other integrations that Databricks now has, so that you can harness their data governance and their the entirety of the platform, and then your own iteration development cycle will copy ours and be a bit quicker and a bit more efficient. So yeah, with that, I knew you didn't come to hear me speak. So with that, I'm going to hand him back over to the man himself here.
Thanks, Roy. It's amazing, right? And I was in All Hands for AI, Mosaic AI, 2 weeks ago, and I told them, it's like AI without application is just a math exercise because you don't have users. AI is very applied. So you have to apply what you do in your data science work and give them in front of the users, and that's what apps does. And without going through the checklist in InfoSec and IT and everyone, you just create your app by yourself. And that's what Koi did, and it's very successful. 200 users a day using his app is pretty cool. So AI changed everything. Every app will be AI-powered. So talking about AI power is going to become something like an oxymoron. Every app's going to be like that. Last year, it changed everything, but also for app development. Last year, I hand-coded an app live here. Guess what? That skill is useless right now. No one's going to hand-code an app live because AI is writing the code for you. It's actually very different right now. So let's talk about what does it mean. What does it mean to have AI in your application? What does it mean for the app development cycle? AI applications, data and AI applications, are a very special kind of app. If you think about like what app development, any web developer, if there's one here, would see is like, oh, let's build a simple CRUD application. You go update, create, read, update, delete kind of thing. You have a client application, you have a client, you have some API servers. Those API servers run your code, there's a logic, and you have a database. That's kind of like the basic application for a CRUD app. And that's how most of the frameworks are now. If you just look outside, that's what they do. What are the characteristics on this? Like, request response is in milliseconds. You saw about the OLTP. Having a response in 100 milliseconds is not acceptable. That makes it super simple because you can just go straight to the database, return, everyone's happy. And API servers are also deterministic. You write the code once, you test, you deploy it, you will work the same way, unless you put some LLM in it. But that's simple. That's the way application development has been. But if you talk about data and AI, and in the end, you put a telemetry in your application performance monitoring, some Datadog of the world, then you're happy, right? You monitor your application, your production, is everything good? Data and AI apps is a little different. And right now, we're in that phase. So we just went GA. So the journey for apps is just starting. And so I'm going to kind of walk through what I'm learning through this journey and how I think the architecture of an AI apps is evolving. Clients are still there. Right now, everyone's creating API servers. They're trying to follow the same design as the CRUD and go into a SQL warehouse, for example. Well, I'm going to create my dashboard. Custom dashboard in Streamlit. You use a SQL connector, go to the SQL warehouse, get some data, return. That works great for a little bit. And then you realize that your SQL warehouse can take up to minutes to return on a query. And then your proxy timeout, because there's a 1 minute limit of how much your request can stay there. And then you have 100 users doing the same thing. When you have 100 users with a lot of long requests, all of a sudden your server starts to get full because now you're keeping all that stuff while every user is there. So it becomes complicated, but that's the reality right now, and it works, and we have thousands of apps doing this. And we haven't even talked about LLMs. And then you connect an LLM. Let's build a chatbot, connect to LLM. You put a chatbot out there, like Ali said today. Everything works fine until you put it in front of your customers, and the LLM starts to spin up things that it shouldn't. But so you think about like what else we have. We have guardrails for LLM. So we have AI gateway. We have all these tools in Databricks. We have authorization and authentication. So we are here. So right now, this is kind of like the majority of Databricks apps are like. This architecture is what they're following. But again, let's remember, some of the requests will be minutes. And then let's start to evolve. So if you start to evolve this application, what I'm seeing the most advanced ones, they're starting to, instead of like having request response, they're starting to stream the response back. So it becomes like WebSockets or server-side events and all that. So you move in your data, you send the request to the database, the client forgets about it, and the API server just returns when it's ready. That solves some of the problems. So that's stream or async. And then we're starting to see a lot of agents coming up. So if you're connecting your app to an agent has its own, the idea about an agent is that autonomous. They actually make decisions for you and do stuff. So you have to think about like how to connect LLMs that you have in a chat or something with an agent and a SQL warehouse and connect all of this together in things that can take minutes, each one of them, right? And like, I don't know if you guys know, but like there's a thing called graceful shutdown in servers. Servers have to be updated every so often, which means that if you have something that's running for minutes, it will likely be turned off because the server is going to have to be updated. And it does because compliance requires the server to be updated every 2 weeks, at least. So now we have, instead of API servers, I'm seeing workflow servers coming up. So you actually design your backend in a way that is workflow activity-like. But now, what happened is still kind of a very stateful server. You're keeping stuff in memory. Comes a database. That's what Lakebase is going to bring us. And that's the key. Now we have all the tools to actually explore the potential of apps in Databricks. Before that, they didn't exist. So now you can save the workflow state and recover if your server restarts. So now you have a much, much better architecture. And of course, you can save user state. You can actually come back. You can restore that. Now good. But that is still kind of generic. And what I'm excited about building an application platform inside Databricks is because when it comes to stochastic, non-deterministic behavior, which agents and LLMs have, you need to have the data that the app generates very close to the rest of the data that it uses. And you need to have the web developers, the data scientists, the data engineers together in the same framework. If they're all working together, we've seen this happening in some customers that are more advanced, it becomes like this flow of improvement of the app becomes very clear. So what happens? So this is like what I'm building towards, right? I want telemetry of the apps to be your data, where in the lakehouse, that way you can actually join your app telemetry, what the agents are doing, what the LLM doing, what the API servers are doing, the workflows, with the rest of your data in Databricks in SQL Warehouse. And of course, Lakebase has a sync from the Lakebase to the lakehouse as well. So now you can connect all the data in your database with the telemetry data, and you can actually do some pretty cool analysis of how things are running. So that's kind of the beginning of actually having a mission-critical AI-powered application. And that's without being in Databricks. If you try to build this in AWS on Azure, man, it's going to take a while. I've done that before, and it's not fun. Because this is like 20 services in AWS right here. And then what is the favorite of everyone in Databricks is that you have to process this data to feed it back into the development of the app, your prompt evolution, what you have with the LLMs and all this. So you have to have data pipelines to process this all together. And now, you see, I'm looking at an app architecture that has data engineer in it. And that's the difference between just a normal CRUD application and AI-powered applications. So if you look side by side, it's a bit more complicated to run proper production-ready data applications. But Databricks now has all the tools that you need. What I need to do now is make it so much easier for you to follow the best practices and do this easier. So that's my job for now, working with you to improve this. So now talking about database, there's apps in Lakebase. It's literally just one click. You say, create new app, add resource, database. You get a database for you. You get the Postgres connection string, and you can just use any Postgres client that you have, just normal. So that now you can save app metadata, you can save AI agent state, you can save some operational data, you can go to town on this. It's actually quite amazing, like how powerful this becomes. Another thing that no one talked about, but I want to bring it, is that I was just playing around with this. Postgres has notifications and has specific locks, which means that you can actually have a queue in Postgres. And once you have queues, then you have a lot of, you kind of pretty much cover everything that you need in an application. So I want to put some demos on that later on. I was just thinking about this. The other thing is that we really, like Justin said this morning, we really embrace an open ecosystem. The first time I talked to a PM in Databricks, they were like, oh, let's build this. And I was proposing some ideas about apps. And the PM said, oh, we need to support Streamlit and whatnot. And it's like, dude, we're going to support anything. Why do I care? It's your code. You run whatever you want. And it turned out to be true because, yeah, like every day there's a new framework. AI is really changing things. And who is going to win? I don't know. But you guys should be able to try it out. You know, I just saw some of this. Like I collect these ones that I know and use, but they're all good. And then what the other thing that's happening is that all the AI generation of code are focusing first on front-end code. You go to Lovable, creates a pretty website for you, which is great because generating static assets with AI is way safer than generating your backend with AI. So let's start with static assets. But they're all generated in TypeScript. So now we're supporting Node.js as well. But it's not Python or Node.js. The runtime of Databricks Apps is actually both. So you can create an app that has the front end in Node.js and the back end in Python. It's up to you. You can use the back end in Node.js too. You can go crazy and create a front end in Python and a back end in Node.js. But it's pretty cool because now you have your application together. We build the front end, serve it in your node, in your fast API or something like that. And now you start to have a more production-ready application because testing, load tests, doing load tests and API tests and all that. This is kind of like what everyone is doing. Every web developer is this. And also, you can bring the web developers in your organization to Databricks apps. They're not going to complain anymore. Oh, do I need to write Streamlit app? No, they can write React and Vite and Svelte, whatever they want to do, Angular, anything. So this is pretty cool. That's what I want to say. And now, what this means too is that we're working super hard to get an ecosystem built. So imagine you can go to, a POSIT workbench, create your Shiny application, and say, deploy in Databricks apps. So the key of apps is not necessarily how easy it is for you to develop and write code. It is the security and governance of bringing your app together with your data. So your app closer to the data, not moving your data out of Databricks, is the key of this whole thing. So we don't care necessarily where you write code. Actually, when you create an application, we actually instruct you to use your own IDE because we're focused on developers, and you should not have to write a notebook to create an app. You do what you want. So that's the idea. So before Databricks, I was as a startup, and we were building some revenue intelligence thing. And the least amount of time was actually developing the app. The majority of the time was actually working with the data that was powering the app. And AI is only going to make this more difficult. But I think what's interesting and why I truly believe that Databricks being an application platform is going to change the game is because the hardest part is the data. We're bringing the easiest part inside, but keeping all the tools and everything together is going to change. It's going to be really transformative, I believe. So now all users can use Databricks, and you can share what you did, the cool stuff that you did, with your users through apps. So on that, I have 3 little things I want to show to you. These guys create some pretty cool demos. And I'm going to see if I can make this work. So Mike deployed a full-blown workflow that does Slack, agent, whatever, in 8N as a Databricks app. No need to change anything. He's just running this whole thing as a Databricks app. You can see that there's quite a few of the workflows. It's the whole thing. It's not just a fake. And that's what it means to be open. You have your framework of choice. You can deploy that in Databricks and use it. Most of these frameworks use Postgres under the hood for state. So now we have lake base. So it just works. The second one, got the wrong name here. Create a healthcare genie. So I was talking to many customers. They love Genie. They really want to use it. But it's very hard to put the Genie the way it is in the workspace in front of all users in the organization. So what they're doing is creating, create your own interface on top of Genie. Genie has a conversation API. So now you can create this, and you can actually enhance what you do with Genie. So you can have things like you can have a healthcare analytics platform, deploy this to your users, and have things that are specific to your use case and how your users should interact with that data. So you can have a different UI on top of Genie. This is like literally just what it did. I don't think this had anything to do with healthcare, but that's there. And then Neme created not just, and then we went one step above. And this is like the art of the possible. This is an application, Casal, and it's going to be in the, one thing I forgot to mention is that we're going to have apps in the marketplace. So a lot of the apps that we create, that we're showing, is going to be installable by all of you. You just go to the marketplace, install it, and test it out, all open source. But this thing here, what it does is actually an agent creation app. You use Crew.ai, and you have agents. You create your tasks, your agents. You see how they're identified. You define your tools that you want to use. There is like hundreds of, at least dozens of tools that you can have. And you can do you can run, and it gives you the results. So for example, this one, Genie Inquire, what is it? I created an agent that checks what questions I can ask for Genie, simple stuff, and returns the list of questions. That's easy. But then I created an ad designer too. That it's just I just ask create a designer that does this, and that. And in the end, I finalize an ad and a tool. And this tool uses DALL-E to generate an image. And within here, it generated this rock festival flyer the same way that I expected. So I think what's cool about this is that it's like an application that you have. You can see your traces from within the application. You can check your result. You can chat with it. You can have full-blown configuration. You can integrate with MCP servers. You can add API keys for any tool that you have. You can add custom tools or pre-built tools based on Crew AI. You can have prompt management. You can do this application is really, really something. But now you have a way to define your own way to create agents and expose those agents, not through this to a UI, but through another application using the Databricks apps. So the bottom line here is that what I say is if you have a problem, there's likely an app for it. You can develop. You're free to go and fix your own problem instead of calling Databricks and say, can you add this to the UI? It goes further because now admins can also love creating apps to govern stuff in Databricks. But this is getting very, very interesting. And what else? With that, we only have 4 minutes. I wanted to see if you guys have any questions or if anything that you want to know. Yes, yeah. Well, thank you. I will be outside if you guys want to chat.